Hey guys, tonight we begin with the barrel rot stench and fishbone bedding of a 17th century wharfside cellar orphanage. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments what time it is for you and where you're tuning in from. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The stone beneath your shoulder is wet again. Not fresh wet like new rain, but slow, seeping ancient moisture that's been rising up from the dock cellar for longer than you've been alive. You don't shift. Movement wakes the skin lice and they'll start their scratching before light. Instead, you lie still, listening. Above, a cart rumbles by. It shakes black grit from the beams. You blink and taste salt. Not clean sea salt, but old fish-rotted, barrel-scraped salt rubbed deep into your gums during packing. Someone groans nearby, short and dull like a sound made in sleep but not from it. You don't know who. There are too many bodies in the dark to keep track. The air doesn't move. It hangs thick and oily from the pickling tubs stacked along the walls, most of them cracked, leaking brine and the soft pulp of what once passed for herring. There's a nail somewhere under your mat. You've never found it with your eyes, but your ribs know it. Some nights you roll and feel it press a tiny warning between bones. You think of pulling it, but then what? The only tool you've got is a fingernail, and you can't spare those. You hear the woman come down the steps before you see her. It's not her feet, it's the breath. She wheezes with every third step, like a bellows long left in the soot. Then the bucket follows, the one with the cold mash and burnt barley paste she calls breakfast. It sloshes once against the sides and then again as she drops it by the doorway. No words, no call. Just the clatter and the smell and the certainty that the bigger boys will get there first. You remain still for a moment longer, counting in your head. 1, 2, 3. Then you go. Not fast. Fast makes noise. Noise gets the back of a hand. The stone is colder on your bare feet than it was on your side. You walk hunched, arms tucked, trying to keep the heat in what little cloth you wear. The others stir. Some are already near the bucket, dipping fingers and licking them like it's something rich. The paste is gray. It clings to the wood like ash. You take your turn, not speaking, not looking up. You lick twice, maybe 3 times, then wipe your hand on the hem. There's salt under your nails. Always salt. You move back to the wall and sit. The wind outside has picked up. You hear it whistle through the loading slats and down the shaft that leads to the alley. You know the barrels will need scraping today. The mold crust is thick. Your fingernails will go black again. You'll smell like old kelp and dead lemon peel by nightfall. But for now, the cold is the only thing awake, and you are inside it. Hey guys. Tonight we begin with the barrel rot stench and fishbone bedding of a 17th century wharfside cellar orphanage. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments what time it is for you and where you're tuning in from. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The stone beneath your shoulder is wet again. Not fresh wet like new rain, but slow, seeping ancient moisture that's been rising up from the dock cellar for longer than you've been alive. You don't shift. Movement wakes the skin lice and they'll start their scratching before light. Instead, you lie still, listening. Above, a cart rumbles by. It shakes black grit from the beams. You blink and taste salt. Not clean sea salt, but old fish-rotted, barrel-scraped salt rubbed deep into your gums during packing. Someone groans nearby, short and dull like a sound made in sleep but not from it. You don't know who. There are too many bodies in the dark to keep track. The air doesn't move. It hangs thick and oily from the pickling tubs stacked along the walls, most of them cracked, leaking brine and the soft pulp of what once passed for herring. There's a nail somewhere under your mat. You've never found it with your eyes, but your ribs know it. Some nights you roll and feel it press a tiny warning between bones. You think of pulling it, but then what? The only tool you've got is a fingernail, and you can't spare those. You hear the woman come down the steps before you see her. It's not her feet, it's the breath. She wheezes with every third step, like a bellows long left in the soot. Then the bucket follows, the one with the cold mash and burnt barley paste she calls breakfast. It sloshes once against the sides and then again as she drops it by the doorway. No words, no call. Just the clatter and the smell and the certainty that the bigger boys will get there first. You remain still for a moment longer, counting in your head. 1, 2, 3, then you go. Not fast. Fast makes noise. Noise gets the back of a hand. The stone is colder on your bare feet than it was on your side. You walk hunched, arms tucked, trying to keep the heat in what little cloth you wear. The others stir. Some are already near the bucket, dipping fingers and licking them like it's something rich. The paste is gray. It clings to the wood like ash. You take your turn, not speaking, not looking up. You lick twice, maybe 3 times, then wipe your hand on the hem. There's salt under your nails. Always salt. You move back to the wall and sit. The wind outside is picked up. You hear it whistle through the loading slats and down the shaft that leads to the alley. You know the barrels will need scraping today. The mold crust is thick. Your fingernails will go black again. You'll smell like old kelp and dead lemon peel by nightfall. But for now, the cold is the only thing awake, and you are inside it. You don't speak in the mornings. No one does. There are too many sounds already. Dripping brine, creaking beams, the muffled clang of iron hoops tightening over wet barrels somewhere 2 floors above. It's enough. The woman has gone back up. You heard her steps and the grunt she gave when the latch stuck again. She never fixes it. She just kicks it and mutters. That's the signal to start work. No bell, no orders. Just that sound. You stand slow. Your hip is stiff, the right one. It catches when you bend too far or try to lift a full tub without balancing it right. You've never told anyone. They'd either laugh or send you back to the street. And the street in February is worse than this. Even the rats in the alley dig deeper when the frost comes off the water. Your shirt clings to you, damp from where the mat leaked again. It smells like old cabbage and something sweet but wrong, like fruit that sat too long in a sailor's pocket. You don't change it. You've only got the one. The sleeves are uneven from where you tried to tear off a strip to tie your toe last autumn when the nail split. The blood soaked through, and now there's a black stain near the hem. It itches, but less than it used to. You reach for the scraping board and the bone-handled knife. The blade is chipped, and the handle is greasy no matter how much you rub it with cloth. It's the same knife you used yesterday, and the day before, and every day since the boy named Danner dropped it in the brine tub and they made him fish it out with bare arms in November. He caught fever 2 days after, never came back. The scraping board leans against the wall where the barrel stacks leave just enough room for a child to work. You wedge it upright with a bit of stone and set the tub beside it. The fish skin has gone gummy in the cold. It pulls in strings like bad cheese as you drag the knife through it. The smell turns worse as the sun rises, but only because it heats the brine. You don't flinch anymore. Your nose gave up months ago. You just scrape. 1 long pull, then 2 short ones to catch the flakes. Then rinse the blade in the dirty rag. Repeat. Sometimes the woman comes down mid-morning and pretends to watch. She leans against the beam and picks her teeth with a fishbone. Once she laughed when your hand slipped and the knife bit into your palm. Not hard, just enough to leak red. She said it looked like herring jam. You didn't answer. She doesn't like when boys answer. You wiped it on your shirt and kept scraping. Your arms ache already. The boards rub your knees raw through the cloth. You shift your weight, not to ease the pain, but to keep blood moving. If your foot falls asleep here, it won't wake in time for second chores. That's when they open the hatches and pass down the rotted sacks of sawdust and sweepings to be pressed into the walls for insulation. It's a filthy job, not the dirt itself. You've made peace with that. It's the beetles. They nest in the old jute and burrow deep. You've learned how to shake the sacks first, beat them twice on the stone, then again on the beam, then hold them at arm's length when you tear the seam. You don't always see what comes out. Sometimes you just feel it later, crawling. You keep working, no clock, just muscle memory and the way the cellar light changes. At some point, the scrape will stop being needed. That's when you know it's near time to eat, or sleep, or change jobs. The day won't tell you. The woman won't either. You'll just know by how your fingers stop bending, or how the brine dries to crust, or how the barrel stops leaking and begins to stink in a new way. The worst barrels are the ones no one wants to touch. You know which they are by how the boards bow outward just a little, like something inside is pushing against the slats. The iron hoops around them have dark stains, not from salt, but from whatever seeps up when the brine fails. There's a smell to them, heavier than fish or mold or grease. It's the smell that hangs in your throat for hours after, no matter how many times you breathe into your sleeve. The woman doesn't say which barrels to work on. She just looks. If she looks at you too long when the door opens, it means you're the one. Today, she looked at you. You drag the crate stool over and climb up, knees pressed to the slick side of the wood. The top board creaks as you pry at it. The crowbar is older than the floor. Its edge is blunt, and the grip has splinters where your palm always finds them. You shift your hand, ignore the sting, and press down. The lid gives with a low, wet sound, like something exhaling after being forgotten. The smell comes first, then the heat. Not warmth, not even steam. Just that thick warmth of rot trapped too long and finally released into air that didn't want it. Inside is a layer of gray. Not fish. Not anymore. It might have been fish once. Now it's a jelly of skin and bone and salt-softened cartilage that folds under your knife instead of slicing. You don't think of it as food, though someone will eat it. Not here. It'll go upriver, sold cheap. You saw a ledger once, half frozen in the wall by the bins. It listed barrel numbers and weights. Most were marked acceptable. A few said cull. That's what this barrel is. You scrape anyway. Not to clean it, but to remove the worst of the top. A layer of grime that'll be stirred back into something else. Your fingers grow slick, not from sweat, from the oil and the rot. It soaks through cloth. You wipe them again and again, but it makes no difference. Everything you touch will smell like this for the rest of the week. The knife slips. You catch it barely and curse yourself silently. You're lucky. A slip here could mean a week of fever or worse. The woman won't treat wounds. She'll bind them, maybe. She keeps a spool of linen soaked in vinegar and says it's clean. It isn't. The last boy who used it lost 2 fingers. He doesn't scrape anymore. He sweeps. You pause when the light changes. Not much. Just enough that the shadow from the upper hatch softens. That means someone's passed by up there. You listen. A cart, maybe. Or boots. Doesn't matter. It's just a moment's measure of the world above. The world where air moves and things dry when the sun hits them. You go back to scraping. Lunch comes late. Always does. If you're lucky, it's bread soaked in brine and pressed flat under stone to save shape. If you're unlucky, it's the same mash from morning, but thinner. Today you're neither. Today the woman throws a bucket down the steps with half a dozen bones and tells the oldest to make stew. He nods. He's 11. You watch as he pulls the pot from behind the bins and fills it with what passes for water, a mix from the rain barrel and whatever's dripped from the upper eaves into the basin. The bones go in whole. No herbs, no salt. There's enough salt in everything already. He stirs with a stick. You take your bowl, a cracked ceramic with one side blackened from fire, and wait in line. There's no rush. The stew needs to boil, or at least bubble. The woman says it kills the bad air. You're not sure what that means, but the last boy who drank it cold didn't wake the next day. No one asked why. You don't ask either. You take your portion when it's your turn and sit with your back to the wall, watching the way the liquid moves in your bowl like it's trying to crawl away. The stew burns your tongue, but not in the way heat should. It's a sour sting, like old metal and wet cloth left too long beside the hearth. You sip anyway, not for flavor, not for fullness, but because it's warm, and you haven't felt warm since Michaelmas. You swallow, and it sits heavy in your gut, like it's looking for a place to hide from the cold. The others eat in silence. It's not a rule, but it might as well be. The woman doesn't like noise when she's upstairs. You can hear her now through the boards, pacing. The boards creak twice each time, then pause, then twice again. That means she's carrying the ledger. That means someone's getting sold. It happens quiet. A man will come down with 2 clean boots and ask questions. He'll look the boys over, never touching, but close. Then he'll nod at one, and the woman will nod back. The next morning that boy's mat will be empty. His bucket turned upside down. Sometimes you wonder where they go. To ships, maybe. Or shops. You've heard of glass blowers who need small hands. And rat catchers who don't mind if a boy loses a finger or two. Better that than the chimney crews. You saw one of them once, all soot and eyes and coughing that never stopped. He smiled at you with 3 teeth and said the roofs were better than the cellars. You didn't believe him. You finish your stew, wiping the last of it with a twist of crust that might once have been bread. It cracks in your mouth like charcoal. Your jaw aches after. There's a tooth at the back that started to rot. You press it with your tongue. It moves. Not much, but enough to make your stomach turn. You'll need to pull it soon. No point asking for help. The woman doesn't deal in teeth. She says mouths are not her concern. There's a boy who pulled his own last year with a fish hook and a bit of string. Screamed once, then fainted. He's quiet now. Not slower, just less. Like something important drained out with the blood. The work resumes with the scraping finished. The brine tubs need stirring, and that's worse in its own way. The long paddle is slick, warped, and rough at the grip. Your hands blister easy now. Not fresh blisters, just the old ones breaking open again. The brine fights back. It stings every crack in your skin, fills them with salt and something older. You stir in circles, counting with your breath. Not aloud, just inside. 10 breaths. Change direction. 10 more. Then hand off to the next. It's not written down. It's just what you do. A boy next to you drops the paddle, his hands red, shaking. He's younger, maybe 7, new to the cellar. He still flinches at the smells. The woman hears the splash and appears at the top of the stairs. Doesn't speak, just looks, then steps down, slow. She doesn't shout, she never does. Her belt is wide and soft from use. She keeps it looped twice, one end always dragging just slightly. She says nothing, just takes the paddle and smacks it once against the wall. A warning. The boy nods and picks it back up. His hands shake worse now. He won't drop it again. Outside, it's started to rain. You hear it on the upper shutters, then down the drain shaft. The moisture comes in fast, curling around the stones like steam off a weak broth. It makes the salt melt again, and the smell sharpens. You breathe through your mouth. A mistake. The taste is worse than the smell. But you don't gag. Not this time. You've learned. The day creeps by without clocks. Just shadows and the feel of bone in your back when you lean too long. You scrape, stir, pack, repeat. When it's done, you don't know. The woman calls up, not down. That's the end. No one speaks. You just lie back down. Same mat, same damp, same spot. The nail is still there under your ribs. You let it press in. You're too tired to move. Night doesn't fall in the cellar. It sinks, slowly, like a wet cloth sliding down the back of your neck. There's no sunset, no last warmth through a window. Only the dimming of gray until it becomes black, and the quiet creak of the beams when the wind presses against the dockside boards. You're already lying down. Everyone is. No one says goodnight. It isn't a word you use. You pull your knees in tight, tucking your hands into the folds of your shirt to keep them warm. The mat is damp again, as always. You don't bother moving. It's cold everywhere. The fire upstairs is faint, barely enough to make a glow through the cracks in the ceiling. Sometimes the woman lets it go out early, says there's no sense burning wood for boys who should sleep. You hear her cough once, then the scrape of the poker. That's the last sound from above. After that, only the rats. They come when the heat leaves. Their claws click against the stone. You've seen them, slick black with pale bellies and eyes like wet beads. They don't fear you. If you move too fast, they scatter, but only a little. Then they come back. One bit your toe last year. You didn't scream. You just rocked and breathed until it stopped bleeding. Your mouth is dry. The stew has settled like a brick in your belly, and the salt burns behind your lips. There's a bucket in the corner with a cloth thrown over it. That's for drinking. Rainwater, mostly, when it's not green. You sit up, slow, and cross the stones. You don't step on the cracks, not because you believe in luck, but because they're sharp and your feet are soft from the brine. You lift the cloth and dip your hands. The water is cold, tastes like the roof tar and pigeon droppings. You drink anyway. Better that than the thirst. Back on the mat, your skin itches. Always does at night. Not just from the lice, but from the dry salt, the damp cloth, the smoke from upstairs. Your eyes sting. You rub them with the back of your wrist and breathe shallow to keep from coughing. Somewhere nearby, a boy shivers in his sleep. You hear his teeth click together. He's new. Doesn't yet know how to wrap his arms just right. He'll learn, or he won't. The barrels across the room settle with a groan. Wood swelling from the day's moisture. The lids flex, the hoops creak. You remember once thinking they sounded like breathing. Slow, labored, alive in the dark. Now you know better. Nothing here breathes except the boys, and not all of them evenly. Sleep doesn't come fast. Your head aches behind your eyes. Not sharp, just steady. Like something pressing from inside. You know it's the salt again. Or maybe the tooth. You press your tongue against it. Still loose, maybe looser. If it comes out tonight, you'll keep it in your palm until morning, then toss it behind the crates. Like the last one. No one keeps them. They're not lucky. They're not anything. Just bone. The cold deepens. You curl tighter. Someone shifts close to you, their back against yours. Shared warmth, not friendship. You don't even know his name. Might be the one with the limp, or the one who sings in sleep. Doesn't matter. You don't move away. Body heat is body heat. That's the rule. No one talks about it, but no one breaks it. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to make the dark feel more your own. It's quieter that way. The rats slow, the wind quiets, the creaks fade into breath. You count, not sheep, but mats. 11, 12, 13. One's empty. That's right. The boy with the scabbed ear never came back after being sent up for errands. You wonder if he got out, or if he just got sold. The morning doesn't wake you. It leans on you, heavy and slow, like the cellar air itself pressing down from the beams. You open your eyes because the sounds return, not loud, not sudden, but certain. The drag of the iron latch above, the brittle step of the woman's heel, the clank of her knee against the bucket she always carries too low. Then the drop, same as every day. A dull wooden slap as the feed pail lands near the stairwell. Someone always rises first. Not you. You learned better. First boy gets more food, maybe, but he also gets the first smack if she's in a mood, and she's always in a mood. You sit up slow, careful with your joints. Your shoulders feel packed with stone. The back of your neck aches. The mat has stuck again to your side where the damp soaked through. You peel it away with your hand, feeling the cold film it leaves behind. The boy next to you is gone. Maybe to the pail, maybe outside. You don't ask. You don't talk. The voice stays in your throat until it's scraped raw by brine and hunger. You move to the pail like the others. Not fast, not slow. Just enough to show you're not weak. The mush inside is colder today, thicker. Less water, more grain, barley or whatever sweepings they've boiled down. You take your scoop, 2 fingers, and drag it against the inside of the bowl. Lick once, twice. Then wipe your hand on the inside of your shirt, not the outside. The outside still needs to look passable if someone with coins comes in today. She's standing by the top beam now, watching. Her arms folded, shawl dragging one side, eyes like soot on milk. She never smiles. Doesn't frown either. Her face just folds inward, like it's forgotten how to move. She points at you. No words. Just the finger, bent like a hook. You nod, stand, and walk toward the stairs. That's how it works. If you're picked, you go. At the top, the light blinds you for a moment. You blink against it. Your feet sting on the rough wood. The cellar stone was cold, but this is splintered heat from old beams rubbed bare. She hands you a cloth, points again. The crates by the door, herring barrels delivered last night. They need to be shifted, restacked, wiped. You nod and bend. Each crate is heavier than the last. Your fingers sink into grooves where rope once cut deep. You press your weight into your legs, shift the barrels along the line, drag them toward the far wall. It's not lifting, it's wrestling. The brine inside sloshes. You hear bones shift in the salt. Sometimes a fin flaps loose and slaps the side. You wipe it down with the cloth, once, twice. The cloth stinks already. It will never come clean. You toss it over the beam when you're done. The woman doesn't thank you. She never does. Just turns and leaves. Her footsteps vanish into the upper hall. You stand alone in the storeroom, the light slanting through the high shutters like golden dust. But it's not warm. The light here never warms. It just makes the rot easier to see. You reach up and wipe your nose on your sleeve. Something sticky comes away. You don't look. You walk back down before she calls. Better to be early. She doesn't like waiting. The cellar greets you like always. cold, wet, air thick with spoiled salt and sleep. You sit on your mat again. The others are still eating. The bucket's nearly empty. Someone drops it, and the bottom splits. The last of the mash leaks across the stone like pale mud. No one speaks. No one moves to clean it. You all just watch it soak in. They give you rope work today. That means your fingers will bleed by evening. You know it before you even start. The ropes come in tied in clumps, thick with old salt, oil, bits of hay, and dead barnacles if they've been dragged through the wharf. They're coiled like guts, knotted like hair, and your job is to untangle them, dry them flat across the cellar racks, and twist them back into hanks for boiling. Not boiling here, somewhere else. Somewhere with steam and vats and men with proper tools. You just prepare. You always just prepare. The pile is taller than your chest. It smells like wet hemp and spoiled vinegar, and something faintly sweet. Not pleasant sweet, but rotten sweet, like the sugar crust on a dead pear. You sit cross-legged on the stone and pull the first coil loose. It sticks. Of course it sticks. The knots have been sitting all night, pressed under barrels and crates. You dig your fingers in and start. Twist, pull, jerk, over and over. You feel the fibers cut you on the third knot. Not a deep cut. Just enough to remind you that the rope doesn't care. You spit on your hand to keep the blood thin and keep going. It takes hours, not because it's hard, but because it never ends. Each rope leads to another. Each knot has two more behind it. You lose count of how many you've done. The light never changes down here. The wall stays the same color, the barrels cast the same shadows. You measure time by pain, when the cuts go numb, when your back begins to seize, when your legs fall asleep beneath you. That's how you know. At some point, someone brings water, a boy with a tin cup and a crooked walk. He doesn't speak, just sets it down beside you and walks away. You take it and drink. It's rainwater, but it tastes better than the brine. You wipe your mouth and go back to the rope. The floor beneath you is damp now from where the cords have dripped. Your shirt soaks through at the hem. You ignore it. If you stop now, the woman will come. She'll say nothing. Just stand there, belt in hand, waiting. You've seen it. Once she stood that way for nearly an hour before the boy moved. When he finally rose, she didn't hit him, just took his mat. He slept by the door after that. You haven't seen him in days. Your stomach growls, not loudly. Just a soft, slow twist. There won't be food again until sundown, if then. Maybe a boiled root. Maybe the skin from yesterday's fish mash, scraped off the bottom of the bucket and stirred into broth. You don't think of it now. You focus on the rope. Hands raw, arms shaking, sweat mixing with grime on your forehead. The salt from the rope stings where your skin splits. You rub it on your pants, then curse. That's the only dry cloth you have left. Voices upstairs. Two men. One low, slow, familiar. The other sharper, asking questions. You freeze for a second. Not fear, just habit. When men come with voices like that, things change. Boys leave. Sometimes crates do too. You listen but can't make out the words. Then the sound fades. The men move on. Not today, then. Not you. You finish one last coil and set it aside. The pile is smaller now. Not gone, just less. You rest your hands on your knees and let your head fall forward. Your breath echoes in your chest. You blink. Once, twice. Then back to the rope. You've got an hour left, maybe two, before someone tells you to stop. Or the light changes. Or the woman kicks the stair rail and calls for buckets. Whatever comes first. When the buckets come, you stop what you're doing and stand. Everyone does. Doesn't matter what you're in the middle of. Scraping, stirring, tying, boiling. The buckets mean waste run. The woman doesn't shout. She just stands at the top of the steps and tips one slightly. That's the signal. You grab the nearest handle, rough wood banded with iron, and carry it toward the rear shaft. There's a hatch there, halfway up the wall, just wide enough for a boy to crawl through. It opens to the back alley. That's where you pour it. If the hatch sticks, you kick it. If it won't open, you wait. It always opens eventually. Today it sticks. Of course it sticks. The brine has swollen the frame again. You brace your foot against the lower stone and yank with both hands. Your palm slips. Splinters catch in the meat just below your thumb. You don't scream. You grit your teeth, shake your hand once, then pull again. This time it gives. The smell rushes out first. Warm, old, acrid, thick. You blink against it, nose wrinkling. Then you pour. The bucket spills in a slow, chunky stream. Rotten grain, slop water, peelings, and things you don't name. You watch it splash into the alley gutter and vanish down the cracks in the stones. You know rats wait there, but you never see them during pour time. They're smarter than that. Once it's empty, you bang the bottom of the bucket on the wall twice. That's habit. Not needed, just something you do. Inside again, you set it with the others. The cellar smells worse now, which is saying something. The fresh air from the hatch always makes the rot worse. You think about the time a boy threw up from the smell and the woman made him clean it with his shirt. He wore it for 3 more days before it disintegrated. No one offered him another. Shirts are your own problem. You sit back on your mat and press your palms together. The cuts burn. Your fingertips are slick, skin pale and raised from hours in damp cord and brine. You pick at a loose bit with your teeth. It comes away easy. You swallow it. Not from hunger, just habit. There's a taste of salt, then blood. It fades quick. Around you, the boys shift. Not much talking, just movement. One hums under his breath, soft, tuneless. Another rubs his feet with a rag. That's brave. Most don't remove the cloth during the day. The air's too cold. You glance at the door, still shut. No new visitors, no crates. That means the day's nearly done. You look up when you hear the latch click. Not fast, just enough to show you're paying attention. It's the woman again, holding a lantern now. That means night work. Not for everyone, just a few. She lifts the flame and it catches on the nails overhead, casting long shadows across the barrels. She points at 3 boys. Then you. You nod. No words. You stand. Night work is upstairs, usually. Cleaning sometimes. Moving fish tubs to the salting room. It's harder than cellar work, but there's air. Sometimes even dry wood underfoot. You climb the steps slowly, keeping your hand just above the railing, not touching it. It's sticky, always. At the top, you blink against the light. The air smells different. Not clean, but not wet. Fish, mostly. Smoke. Salt. Better than rot. She hands you a brush, points to the far room. You know it already. The floor needs scrubbing. Not with water, with ash. The dry kind, scattered across the stains and rubbed in until they vanish or fade or just smear evenly. It's work that makes your arms burn and your back lock up. But it's warm here, and there's space. And when you look out the shutter slit, you can almost see the moonlight bouncing off the water. Almost. You drop to your knees beside the ash bucket. The floorboards here are old, soft in the middle, dark with stains from things spilled and not spoken of. You've cleaned this floor before. You know where the boards give under your weight and where the splinters lie in wait for fingers that press too hard. The brush she gave you is worn, half its bristles broken, the handle slick with oil from 100 other hands. You dip it into the ash, thick and gray like bone dust, and start scrubbing in circles. It's slow work. The ash doesn't clean the stain. It just spreads it thinner, blends it into the boards until the darkness becomes uniform. That's the goal. Not clean, just less visible. You scrape in silence, shoulders hunched, elbows tight to conserve warmth. The other boys are in the far corners, brushing their own circles into the wood. No one speaks. Voices are swallowed by the walls here. The ash stings your skin, works its way beneath your nails. It scratches your wrists where your sleeves ride up. You shift now and then, careful not to lean too far in any one direction. Your spine aches anyway. It always does. You tell yourself to stop thinking about the pain, but the pain doesn't listen. It hums behind your ribs, low and steady. You breathe through your mouth to avoid the taste. Doesn't help. The ash finds your tongue anyway. The lantern swings from its hook in the rafters. It casts slow, swaying shadows across the planks, like something moving just out of reach. You don't look up. Looking up slows the work, and the woman watches. She might not speak, but her eyes miss nothing. After a time, the ash runs thin. You lift the bucket and shake it gently. Only crumbs left. You kneel again and sweep the last of it across the wettest part of the floor. It catches on a knot in the wood, sticks. You push harder, grinding the bristles down until your hand cramps. Then you stop. Not because the stain is gone, but because the brush handle snaps. The crack is soft, but the silence makes it loud. You freeze. One of the other boys turns his head, just slightly. You don't move. Then the woman steps into view. Her feet are bare, always are at night. She walks like she's never touched the ground. She stops in front of you and looks down at the broken brush in your hand. Then she lifts her arm and takes it from you. Doesn't say a word. Just walks back to the wall and fetches another. Older, stiffer, the bristles cut short. She hands it to you. No glare, no hit, just the look. You take it and start again. Your wrist is raw now, scraped from the wood. Your knees ache. The stain looks the same. You scrub anyway. Outside you hear a gull cry. Strange for night. Then a thud, something falling on the dock boards. Not close, but not far either. You pause, only for a moment. The woman doesn't look up. The gulls don't come this way unless there's food, or blood. You return to the ash. Eventually, the door opens. The man with the long coat steps inside. He's not from here. His boots are dry, his face clean. He smells like tobacco and starch. The woman nods to him. He looks at the boys, then at you. His mouth twitches, not a smile, not a frown, just a movement. Then he points. The woman nods again. You don't ask who he is or why. You just set the brush down and stand. Your knees crack, your palms burn. The ash clings to your shirt and the sweat on your neck. You follow him to the door, not because you want to, but because that's what you've been taught. When someone points, you go. The man doesn't speak as he walks. His coat brushes the wall when the hallway narrows. You follow 3 paces behind, not by instruction, just by instinct. Too close and you'll seem eager. Too far and she might call you back. The floorboards creak under his steps, but not under yours. You've learned where the nails sit loose, where the planks are hollow. You could walk this place blind. At the end of the hall is a door you've never been through. It's not locked, just closed. He opens it with one hand and gestures inside. You step through. The room is small, square, lit by a single oil lamp hung high near the ceiling. The smell here is strange. Not clean exactly, but not rot either. Ink, dust, something faintly chemical. There's a desk, a stool, and a box with a latch that clicks when the man opens it. Inside the box are clothes. Not new, but better. Wool, not burlap. A shirt with buttons. Socks. You stare for a moment before he nods at them. You reach out and touch the fabric. It's soft, thicker than anything you've ever worn. He doesn't say put them on. He doesn't have to. You undress quickly, careful not to let the shirt fall to the floor. Your old clothes you fold and place on the stool. No one told you to, but it feels right. The new shirt is loose, warm even without fire. The trousers scratch less. The socks cling to your feet like bandages. You flex your toes inside them. The man watches, arms folded, still silent. When you're dressed, he nods again and opens another door. This one leads outside. You blink. Real air. Real night. Cold wind that doesn't carry cellar damp. It hits your face like a slap. Not painful, just unfamiliar. The stars are out and you can smell the harbor. Not just the rot, but the salt, the pitch, the sharpness of sea metal. There's a cart waiting. 2 wheels, 1 mule, an old man sitting in front with a pipe clamped between his lips. The man in the coat climbs up without looking back. You follow. The cart shifts as you settle onto the wooden slat beside him. The mule snorts and steps forward. The street is narrow, the buildings high and close, casting long shadows even in moonlight. You pass shuttered windows, doors barred from inside. No voices, just the roll of the wheels and the soft clop of hooves. You don't ask where you're going. You've never had that right. But the silence feels different now. Not safe, not kind, just quiet in a new way. You touch the sleeve of the shirt again. It's still there, not a dream. You breathe in deep and the cold bites your throat. You cough once. The man doesn't react. Eventually the cart slows. You pass through a gate, wider street now, lamps burning in iron cages. A taller building ahead, brick chimneys, a flag drooping in the still air. The cart stops. The man climbs down, then turns. He offers his hand. You hesitate, then take it. His grip is dry, firm, not cruel. He leads you through a side door, down another hall. Not wood now, stone, but not like the cellar. This stone is swept, dry. You hear voices ahead, calm, measured, adults speaking low. He stops beside a door. "Wait here," he says, the first words he's spoken. Then he steps inside and closes it behind him. You're alone, dressed in someone else's clothes, standing on clean stone, holding your breath. You don't know if you've been bought, borrowed, or traded. You just know the cellar is behind you. For now. You stare at the closed door. The wood is smooth, polished, unlike anything in the cellar. There's no crack to peek through, no draft at your ankles, no sound from within. Just the muffled murmur of voices, one of them the man's, steady and flat. You wait. You don't fidget. You keep your arms at your sides, hands open, back straight. That's the trick. Stillness. It keeps people from looking too long. A boy passes behind you, not from the cellar. He's too clean, too quick in his step. He glances once, then vanishes down the corridor. You don't follow. You don't ask. You focus on the wall opposite, where the plaster is lined with faint cracks, spidering from the corner of a framed map. You don't know what the map shows, only that it's old, stained at the edges. The kind of thing adults hang when they want silence to feel like purpose. The door opens. The man steps out. He doesn't look at you, just turns and walks. You follow. The corridor turns twice, opens into a wider hall. The floors here are warmer. You can feel it through the soles of the socks. There's fire somewhere, hidden, controlled. The walls are lined with shelves, books stacked tight, some upright, some leaning. Their spines are cracked, the gold letters faded. You've never touched a book. Not properly. Once a page blew in from the docks, a torn scrap with half a recipe and a drawing of a bird. You kept it for 2 days before it disintegrated in the damp. The man stops at a bench. On it sits a tray, bread, cheese, a chipped mug of something steaming. You hesitate. He nods once and you sit. The bread is soft, the cheese sharp, the drink thick and warm like soup. You eat with both hands, tearing slowly. No one rushes you, no one counts your bites. You finish it all, wiping your mouth with the sleeve before remembering not to. The cloth is too clean for that. He speaks only once more. "Come," he says, and leads you through another door. This room is smaller. A cot in the corner, a blanket folded at the end, a basin with water. A window, closed but not shuttered. The glass is fogged but real. He gestures to the bed. "You'll sleep here. The bell rings at dawn. You'll dress. You'll wait. No noise. No wandering." Then he leaves. You stand for a moment in the center of the room. The air smells like dust and lavender. You cross to the basin and dip your fingers in. The water is cold, but clear. You splash your face, watch the drips fall to the floor. You take off the socks, place them on the bench, then lie down. The cot is firm, dry. The blanket scratchy but warm. You pull it to your chin and stare at the ceiling. It's flat, smooth, no beams, no stains. The silence is too much. Your ears hum with it. You don't know what this place is, a home, a school, a factory. You don't ask. You've learned better. For now, there is bread in your belly and cloth on your back. No ash, no rope, no cellar air. You close your eyes, not because you're tired. You are always tired. But because there's nothing else to do. And for the first time in a long time, you sleep without the weight of a nail in your ribs. The bell wakes you, not sharp, not harsh. Just a single chime, low and deep, echoing through the stone like a cough that never quite clears. You sit up before you remember where you are. The cot, the blanket, the pale light from behind the fogged glass. Your body tenses out of habit, expecting cold, expecting damp, but it's not there. The air is still, dry, carrying only the scent of old paper and iron. You dress quickly, the same clothes, still folded neatly beside the cot. The shirt feels looser now, the fabric warmer after a night of your own heat. The socks slide back on like memory. You stand, smooth the blanket flat and wait. No one comes, no second bell, just silence. You step to the door and wait beside it, hands behind your back. The wood is smooth under your fingers. Eventually it opens. A woman this time, not the one from the cellar. This one wears gray, her hair tied back, hands clean, eyes sharp. She looks you over, then steps aside. You follow without being told. The corridor is lit now. Oil lamps every 10 paces, glass shields glowing amber. Your feet make no sound on the stones. You pass closed doors, hear movement behind some, pages turning, chairs scraping. She leads you to a long room with high windows, rows of benches. At the front, a desk. Not a school, no chalk, no slates. But it feels like a place where people are watched. She points to the second bench. You sit. 5 other boys enter after you, one by one, all wearing the same gray. One glances at you. The rest don't. They sit without whispering. Another man enters. Not the one from yesterday. Taller, thinner, wearing a coat with patches at the elbows. He carries a folder, opens it without looking up. He reads something. Words you don't understand, phrases that sound like inventory or prayer. Then he closes the folder and looks at each of you in turn. His eyes rest on you for a second longer than the others. Then he speaks. "Today," he says, "you will carry crates. Each crate has numbers. You will match them to the door signs. Do not speak. Do not run. Do not guess. He claps his hands once and the boys stand. You follow. Downstairs again. Not back to the cellar. Another storeroom. Wooden crates stacked shoulder high, each marked in chalk. Some light, some heavy. You're handed one. Lighter than expected, but awkward in shape. You follow the others out into another hall, broader, lined with brass numbers on painted doors. Your crate says 2B. You find it. Knock once. No answer. You open the door, place the crate inside, close it. Back down. Another crate. Then again. And again. No talking. Just the rhythm of steps and wood and chalk and brass. It passes like that for hours, until the smell of lunch curls around the corners of the hallway. Bread and something faintly herbal. You don't ask. You keep moving. When they tell you to stop, you do. You're sent to the small dining room. Long table, plain bowls. Bread, broth, water. You eat with the others, still silent, still watching. The bread is crusted but fresh. The broth warm. You sip slowly, not because of rules, but because you want it to last. After the gray woman takes you to another room, smaller, with books, a slate, a stub of chalk. She sets it before you, writes a word. You copy it. Your letters are crooked. She nods. Not praise, just confirmation. She writes another. You trace it again, and again, and again. The chalk dust clings to your fingertips like powdered bone. It gathers in the shallow cuts you've earned from ropework and barrels, white lining red, then fading to gray as your sweat takes it in. The slate is heavy in your lap, cooler than your hands, and the chalk stubs break often. Each break is a pause. Not a rest, just a pause, like a missed heartbeat. The woman replaces them without comment. She has a tin of them, all worn to different lengths, like teeth pulled from a quiet mouth. You write again, the same word. Salt. Then rope. Then fish. Simple, short words you've known without knowing you knew them. The letters feel like lifting stones, clumsy at first, then steadier with each stroke. She watches, not hovering. Just nearby, eyes always returning to your hand. You make a mistake. The P is backward. You stare at it too long, then scrub it with your thumb, smear the chalk into a cloudy bruise and write it again. This time it's right. She doesn't nod, but she doesn't stop you. You keep going. The sun climbs outside. You can't see it, but the light in the room shifts. Warmer, less yellow, more white. You don't sweat, but your shirt loosens at the collar. For a moment you forget the cellar entirely. Then the scratch on your wrist burns where you lean, and the memory returns. When the lesson ends, she takes the slate and places it on a shelf with others, some cracked, some clean. She opens a small wooden box and hands you a cloth, damp, smelling faintly of soap. Real soap. You wipe your hands, the dust coming away in streaks. She takes the cloth back, folds it without looking, and gestures to the door. You're sent to the yard. The stones outside are flat, dry, hot from the sun. A wall surrounds the space, high, topped with iron. Not spikes, just bars bent outward like ribs. The sky above is wide, cloudless. You blink against the brightness. There are a few others here, boys in gray like you. Some sit, some walk. None speak. A few glance your way, but without interest. You find a corner and sit. Back to stone, knees up, arms around your legs. You don't close your eyes. You just look down at your feet. The socks are still clean. Not new anymore, but not ruined. You flex your toes, feeling the cloth pull across your skin. You haven't had socks last this long before. Time passes differently in the yard. There's no work to market. No barrels, no crates, no waste. just breath, movement, stillness. A ball rolls past your foot. You don't touch it. One of the boys retrieves it without speaking. He doesn't thank you. You didn't help. He walks away. A bell chimes, not loud, a signal. Everyone moves at once, calmly, like shadows obeying a shift in the wind. You follow, back through the door, back through the corridor. You're sent to wash. Then to the small room with the cot. The blanket is folded again, the basin filled again. You splash water on your face. It runs down your neck, cold and sudden. You blink. Look in the basin. The reflection is faint, warped by the tin, but still yours. Pale, lips cracked, hair pressed flat, but clean. You dry your face on the edge of your shirt, then sit on the cot. The blanket feels heavier now, like it knows you. Outside the window, the sky begins to darken. The walls hold the day inside. The light fades slow, and you wait for the sound of boots or voice or bell. But nothing comes, just quiet. The evening brings no task, no tray, no visitor. You sit on the cot, hands still, back straight, waiting as the shadows stretch across the floor. They grow from the corners first, then from the window frame, bending low across the stone like limbs too long to rest. The silence is thick, not heavy, but complete. The kind that settles in places with no reason to stir. You don't mind it. You've known louder silences. Silences full of breath held too long and footsteps coming downstairs. Eventually there's a knock, not a sharp one. Just 3 soft taps, like someone checking if the wood still lives. You stand. You don't answer. You've never been taught to. The door opens, and the gray woman steps inside. She holds a candle in a clay dish, the wax running down like melted bone. The light paints her face yellow, her eyes dull and unreadable. She looks at the cot, then at you, then back at the door. "Come," she says. You follow her into the corridor. The lamps are dimmer now, shielded, their glow soft as breath. She walks at a steady pace, neither fast nor slow. You match it. She leads you through a side passage you haven't seen before. Narrower, quieter, lined with shelves that hold nothing but closed boxes and ledgers. The air here smells of ink and old paper. You pass one door, then another, then a third where she stops. She opens it with a key from her belt. The room beyond is small, not a cell, not a closet, just a space. 2 chairs, 1 desk, a shelf with a basin and a folded towel. She steps aside. You enter. The man from the cart is there, coat off, shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow. He nods once when he sees you. Not greeting, just acknowledgement. You stop in front of the desk. He gestures to a chair. You sit. The wood creaks under your weight. He sits across from you, hands flat on the surface. "You've been here 3 days," he says. His voice is quiet, smooth, without rise or fall. "You've worked. You've listened. You've done what was asked." You nod once. He studies you for a moment longer, then reaches into a drawer. He pulls out a book, thin, bound in rough leather, with a strip of red cloth hanging from the top like a tongue. He places it on the table. "This is yours," he says. You look at it, not sure what to do. "You will read from it," he continues. "You will copy what you read. You will memorize some of it. Not all, just parts." He opens the cover. Inside are words, not the ones from the slate, longer ones, harder ones. You recognize only a few. "This place," he says, "is not for punishment. Not anymore. It is for learning. But learning is slow, and it is earned." He closes the book. "Do you want to learn?" You pause. Not because you doubt, but because you've never been asked. Want has never been part of your vocabulary. "Yes," you say. He nods, No smile, just that same flat calm. "You will keep the book in your room," he says. "You will not lose it. You will not trade it. You will not let it fall into the water or the fire or the hands of boys who only want to tear." You nod again. He slides the book across the desk. You take it with both hands. The cover is cool, the spine stiff. The woman leads you back through the corridor. No words this time, just the soft scrape of shoes on stone. In your room, you place the book on the bench, sit beside it, watch the candle burn low, and wonder what tomorrow's words will feel like on your tongue. The book waits for you at dawn. The bell wakes you, softer this time, as if it knows you've begun to expect it. You wash your face in the basin, dress in silence, fold the blanket again. Then you sit on the bench, the book in your lap. You run your thumb along the edge of the pages before opening it. The words inside haven't changed, but they look different in morning light. Less like symbols, more like possibilities. You trace the first line with your finger, mouth it silently, then again. The letters are taller than the ones on the slate, curved, balanced. You try them with your tongue. Salt preserves. 2 words. You understand them both, but not how they're meant together. You repeat it anyway. Salt preserves. Salt, you know. It burns wounds, ruins skin, keeps fish from melting. Preserves. That's new. The gray woman brings the slate, places it beside you. No word, just the chalk, short and sharp. You copy the line. The letters uneven, but they hold their shape. She watches. When you finish, she writes another on a scrap of parchment, leaves it beside your bowl of broth at midday. Rope binds. You chew and read. Repeat it between spoonfuls. The others eat in silence. You do too, but now your silence has weight, words inside it. After meal, you work. Crates again, marked this time. You look for numbers and letters, match them to signs on the doors. One door doesn't match. You stop. Wait. Another boy sees you hesitate. He takes the crate. You don't fight, just watch as he carries it away. You remember the numbers. Later you see the mark on the wrong door. You were right. You don't say anything. At the end of the shift, the man calls you into the study again. Same chair, same desk. He opens the book, points to a page. Read. You do. Slowly. The words come out thick, some stuck behind your teeth. He waits, doesn't correct you. When you finish, he closes the book. You see what others don't, he says. That's not cleverness, it's attention. We value that here. You nod. You don't understand all of it, but enough. He opens a drawer. Inside, a quill, a pot of ink, a folded rag. He lays them on the desk. Tomorrow, he says, you'll write it properly. The woman returns you to your room, the book still warm from your hands. You sit again, watching the candle. The flame dances less now, the wax lower. You look down at the book, open to a page where a word waits. Memory. You whisper it once. Close the book. Place it beneath your pillow. Not to hide it, to hold it close. The ink smells like metal. You notice it the moment the lid comes off the pot. Sharp, almost bitter, like rust soaked in rain. The man sets the quill in your hand, the point already cut, the feather stripped bare save for a few frayed veins near the top. It doesn't feel like yours, but he tells you to write. You open the book to the marked page and copy the first line. Salt preserves. The quill scratches louder than you expected. The desk is too firm. Every tremor in your fingers shows in the line. You keep your hand tight, wrist floating. The first S slants wrong, and the T splits too thin. You glance at the man. He doesn't react, just watches. You write the second line. Rope binds. The ink pools too much on the P. You lift the quill, dab it on the rag, and start again. Your second try is better. Your fingers ache, but you finish the sentence. The man nods. He leans over and wipes the nib. Slow is better than sloppy, he says. Speed comes later. You write 2 more lines before the pot dries. He caps it, takes the rag, and leaves the page open to dry. Your letters wobble, but they hold. Later that day, you return to the storeroom. Same crates, but now you check each mark twice. You trace the chalk with your thumb, match the shape to what you've learned. The other boys carry quickly. You don't. You're careful. No one stops you. At meal, the bread is thinner, the broth weaker, but you don't mind. You sit near the boy who reads faster than the others. You don't speak, but he glances at your page, nods once, then returns to his own. That nod is more than most words. That evening, back in your room, you open the book without being told. You trace memory again, then listen, then observe. Each one you copy twice onto the parchment scrap you found folded inside your blanket. It curls at the corners now, soft from use. A knock at the door. The gray woman again. This time she doesn't enter. She just hands you something wrapped in cloth. A bar of soap, real, heavy, pale green. She says, "Tomorrow bath," then leaves. You hold it in your hands for a long time. The scent is strong, mint maybe, or crushed leaves. It doesn't match anything you know. You place it carefully in the basin like it might disappear if you look away. You lie down with the book open beside your head. The candle burns lower now. You read each word again, lips barely moving. You try them silently, then aloud, then silently again. The floor outside creaks once. Someone walking past. Not the woman, not the man. A shuffle. Slower. Another boy, maybe. You don't check. You just listen. Later, as the flame dies to a stub and the corners of the book fade into shadow, you speak the words once more into the dark. Not loud, not even firm, just enough for them to exist outside your breath. Salt preserves, rope binds, memory stays. Then sleep. Not deep, but clean. The bathhouse is not what you expected. There's no steam, no warmth, no tiled walls like in the old stories muttered by dockhands. It's a stone room with a spout in the corner, a rusted grate in the center, and a barrel of cold water poured slowly by an older boy whose eyes don't meet yours. The gray woman stands by the door, arms crossed, watching. She doesn't speak. You undress behind the curtain, fold your clothes onto the bench, then step barefoot onto the wet stone. The cold hits fast, the first splash running down your spine like ice. You don't flinch. You crouch, scoop water in both hands, pour it over your arms, your chest, your legs. The soap is a block, hard and stubborn, more like chalk than anything. You rub it between your palms until it lathers. Not much, but enough. It smells clean. That's the only word you have for it. Not like rot, not like brine, not like ash or cellar mold. Just clean. You scrub your arms until they're red, your neck until it burns. When you rub your hair, flakes fall. Not all dirt. Some skin, long dead. You rinse, shivering, breath short. The water slips down your ribs and pools near your ankles before vanishing through the grate. The boy hands you a towel, rough but dry. You take it. Dry fast. The air is cold and moving. The clothes they give you afterward are different. Same cut, but cleaner. The socks match. The shirt isn't patched. You dress and nod once to the woman. She turns and leaves. You follow the others back to the hall. A bowl of warm grain porridge waits. You eat it slower than usual. The taste doesn't matter. It's the temperature. It fills your chest like a fire might. The lesson after is longer, more words. Observe. Repeat. Begin. You copy each onto slate. Your hand cramps halfway through. The chalk snaps twice. You replace it without asking. The gray woman gives you a nod that isn't approval, but isn't the opposite. When it ends, the man from the desk enters. He carries no coat this time, only a roll of parchment. He spreads it out on the desk, revealing a diagram. A rope, tied in different ways. One looped, one crossed, one knotted twice. These are lessons too, he says. Hands learn as much as eyes. You are paired with another boy, taller, narrow fingers, silent. He shows you the first knot. You mirror him. Your hands fumble, his do not. He doesn't mock, he just shows you again. You watch the way his thumbs press, the way he pulls before tightening. You try again. This time it holds. Afternoon becomes dusk. You are given a tool, blunt knife, wooden handle, flat edge. You scrape rust from iron hooks. You sand slats of wood with stone. You wrap linen tight around cracked handles. Every motion exact, every action watched. You bleed once, barely, a splinter from a crate. You pluck it with your teeth, press the wound against your shirt. It stops quick. You don't mention it. Evening meal is bread again. You eat it with tea. Hot, bitter, black. You've never had tea before. The warmth alone feels like kindness. Back in your room, the book waits. You open it. Copy 2 lines, then 3. You light your own candle now. It's short, stubby, almost gone. But the flame is yours. That night, the dreams return. Not the old ones. Not the cellar, not the mat. Not the weight of a full waste bucket sloshing against your leg. These are newer, quieter. In them, you sit at the long desk with the others, writing slowly, the book open before you. The ink doesn't spill, the words don't slip away. The light is steady, the candle doesn't gutter. When you wake, it takes a moment to remember where you are. The bell rings. You rise, wash, dress. The socks are stiff at the heel where they dried wrong, but the shirt is still whole. You fold the blanket neatly, tuck the book under your arm, and wait for the door to open. It doesn't. Not at first. You stand for a long time before the knob turns. It's not the woman. It's the boy from the rope lesson. The tall one with quiet fingers. He says nothing, just nods and steps aside. You follow him through the corridor, but not to the study, not to the bench. He leads you up. You didn't know there was an up, a stair hidden behind a shuttered panel, narrow and steep. The air changes as you climb. Less dust, more chill. The stones cleaner, the light sharper. At the top is a door with a small iron plate beside it. No name, just the number 4. The boy knocks once, then opens it. Inside is a room wider than your old sleeping space, but not large. There's a long table, a fire burning low in a grate, and 3 men standing around a tall stand draped in canvas. They turn when you enter. One of them, pale hands, eyes like glass, steps closer. "You're the cellar boy," he says. Not cruel, not soft, just fact. You nod once. The man gestures to the canvas. "Come see." You do. The cloth is lifted, revealing a map, but not like the one in the corridor. This one is hand-drawn, ink still shining in places. A wharf, rows of buildings, arrows, tally marks. "What do you see?" he asks. You stare, trace the lines with your eyes. The dock is wrong, shorter than it should be. The supply path drawn where no cart could turn. You point. "That's missing," you say. He raises an eyebrow. "What is?" You step closer. There's another hatch behind the 3rd storehouse. It drains under the stone. It floods when it rains. The other men look at each other. One leans forward. "How do you know that?" I used to dump buckets there, you answer. The man with pale hands smiles. Not wide, not warm, but real. Good, he says. They question you for a while longer, about the cellar layout, the barrel stacks, the condition of ropes, the shape of hooks. You answer simply. You don't embellish. You describe what you remember, which is everything. When they finish, they dismiss you with a nod. Outside the room, the quiet boy waits. He leads you down again, past the rows of ledgers, past the boxes, to a bench. He gives you bread and a folded scrap of paper. On it, salt preserves, rope binds, memory guides. You eat the bread slowly, eyes on the paper. The edges curl in the warmth of your fingers. You read the words again and again, and something in your chest, not warm, not full, but steady, begins to hold. The next morning you are not sent to the crate hall. You are not handed rope or brush or slate. Instead, you are led again to the upper stair, the one hidden behind the shuttered panel. The quiet boy doesn't come this time. It's the gray woman. She doesn't speak, but her presence alone clears a path. The others step aside. They don't look at you. You don't know if that's respect or something else. It doesn't matter. You keep your head low, your steps light. At the top, the same door, the same iron plate. This time you open it yourself. Inside, a different man waits. He's older, beard trimmed to a line under his chin, eyes red-rimmed like he hasn't slept. He gestures you to a stool beside the window. On the table before him, coils of parchment and a heavy box of iron weights. Today, he says, you measure. He unwraps the parchment slowly. It's a diagram, not a map, not a list. A design. Wooden beams, jointed corners, bolts and angles. You recognize nothing, yet something about it feels familiar. The weight of accuracy, the need for balance. He sets down a rule, brass, cold to the touch, and teaches you the marks. Each one a line, a silence, a boundary. You measure, then mark, then measure again. Your hand trembles at first, but steadies by the third repetition. He watches, correcting only once. Your line is too eager, he says. Let the weight of the tool do the work. By midday, your fingertips are ink-stained, not from writing, but from touching the parchment. The lines bleed if you're not careful. You learn to hover, to guide without smearing. You are given no lunch bell, just a bowl of boiled barley and a chair beside the fire. The food is plain, but warm. The chair softer than any crate. The man eats, too. No talk, just the quiet of breath and spoon and fire crackle. In the afternoon, he shows you how to fold the parchment. Precise, even creases. Corners aligned like soldiers in a row. A plan is useless if it can't be stored, he mutters. You nod. You fold 3 sheets. He watches, then hands you a sealed envelope. You'll take this to the dock office, he says. Do not open it. Do not speak unless spoken to. Walk the east lane. Avoid the salt wagons. You do as told. The street outside the building is louder than you remember. Boots on stone, carts groaning, men shouting. The air smells of fish, of course, but also of sweat and horse dung and smoke from wet coal. You keep your eyes forward, the envelope tight in your hand. You pass the salt wagons, drivers cursing as the wheels stick in mud. You pass a dog chewing something red. You do not stop. At the dock office, you knock once. The clerk opens, takes the envelope, closes the door. No word. No thanks. You turn and walk back. Inside, the gray woman is waiting. She doesn't ask if the job is done. She simply nods once and points to your door. You go. The book is there, open to a new page. Deliver, observe, record. You copy the words slowly. Then again, then again. The envelope deliveries become regular. once each morning, sometimes again by evening. Each sealed with wax, each marked with initials you do not recognize. The routes change. One day to the tannery office behind the grain market. The next to a quiet brick building with barred windows and a man who never opens the door more than a hand's width. You are given no explanations, only the path, the rules. Walk quickly, do not run, speak only if required. Do not stop for food, dogs, or carts. You follow them, every time. With each walk, the city begins to sort itself in your mind. The angles of alley corners, the pattern of cobbles near the wells, the particular way the dock slope bends eastward when the tide is out. You carry the envelope tucked flat between your palm and your ribs. You never drop it. Once a boy near the market tried to snatch it. You didn't fight. You ducked. He missed. You didn't look back. You return with empty hands and receive no praise. But your tasks keep coming. Inside the building, your duties grow. Measuring, folding, knotting rope samples for testing. A boy shows you how to seal glass jars over flame, trapping air inside. Another teaches you how to sand thin strips of wood smooth enough for ink to catch clean on them. You learn without asking. Watch first, mimic after. That's the rhythm. In the evenings, the man in the study gives you new phrases. Structure requires silence. Observation is discipline. Memory is the spine. You write each one 3 times, then again the next morning, then again at dusk. You sleep without the candle now. You know the page by touch. One evening, the gray woman gives you a box. Inside, a pair of shoes. Not new, but whole. Laces stiff, soles worn smooth, but still firm. For your feet, she says. You nod. You'll walk farther tomorrow. And you do. The new path takes you behind the rope yard, through a side street that stinks of old pitch and seaweed. You deliver 2 envelopes. One to a man with a cane who watches you with a crooked smile. One to a girl with ink-stained hands who only nods once before vanishing through a narrow gate. You see things you're not meant to see. Lists scratched on ledgers, marks on crates that don't match their labels, a seal broken before you arrive. You say nothing, you remember. Back in your room, you copy more lines. The book gives no answers, only direction. Write what is not said. Know what was not taught. Each phrase folds deeper into you, like muscle learned by lifting, then lifting again. That night as you sleep, you dream not of the cellar, nor the mat, nor the woman's bucket. You dream of knots, tight, perfect, silent. You dream of doors opening from the inside. You wake with a word on your tongue, one not in the book, not yet. The word from your dream lingers even as your feet find the floor. You whisper it once, not out loud, just into the bowl of your chest where no one else can hear it. You don't know its meaning, only its shape. But it fits. It fits the way the rope bends, the way the crate lid creaks when lifted properly, the way the woman's shadow falls long across the corridor even when she's standing still. You wash, dress, tie the shoes tight. The soles don't slide on stone. They hold. Today you are sent with 2 packages instead of envelopes. Small wooden boxes sealed with wax, wrapped in waxed cloth to keep out the rain. The man gives you no instructions beyond names. North Gate, then West Hall. Return before bell. You nod. The streets are slick from an early shower. The salt carts haven't come yet, so the air smells cleaner than usual. Wet clay, scorched rope, sour bread from the bakery vents. You walk steadily, eyes forward, hands firm on the cloth wraps. At the north gate, the guard waves you through. He recognizes the package, doesn't check it, just tilts his chin toward a low building with shuttered windows. You knock. A woman answers, old, sleeves rolled, eyes tired but not cruel. She takes the package, marks your name on a board by the door. You see it, scratched in soft lead. First time you've seen your name written by someone else. It looks strange. At the West Hall, the second package goes to a man you've never seen. Thin, tall, coat too clean for the alley he stands in. He doesn't open the door wide. He doesn't ask your name. He just says, "On time," then shuts it before the cloth stops swinging. You return by a different route, not by choice. A cart has overturned in the main lane. A barrel of salted fish burst open, guts pooling between cobbles. The stench curls into your nose like old memory. You turn down a side path, narrow and dark. It winds behind storage buildings, walls close enough to scrape your elbows if you're not careful. You pass a window cracked open. Inside you hear voices, soft, firm, familiar in tone, if not in word. Names, dates, weights. You pause, not to listen, just to mark the sound. Then you move on. Back in the hall, the man is waiting, not the one from the study, another with ink-stained cuffs and a ledger under one arm. He asks nothing about the delivery, only, "Which way did you return?" You tell him. He nods, makes a mark, walks away. In your room, the book waits, page turned. A new phrase, ink still drying. Paths change, direction matters. You copy it once, then again. Then a third time, slower. At evening meal, you sit beside the boy from the rope lesson. He hands you half his bread without a word. You take it. After, the gray woman brings you a scrap of linen wrapped around something heavy. Inside, a brass weight, etched with a mark you recognize from the warehouse diagrams. "You'll need this," she says, then walks away. You hold it in your palm, thumb rubbing the groove worn into one side. The weight isn't much, but it's precise, deliberate, solid. Like you now, more than before. That night, you don't sleep immediately. You lie still, the brass weight on the bench beside the book, the flame of the stub candle trembling in its dish. The shadows from the shutter slats stretch across the floor like fingers trying to reach the cot but falling just short. You turn the weight in your hand. It is warm now, touched so long that your skin has given it something of yourself. You trace the mark again, not a letter, not a number, just a shape. A hook with a tail. You've seen it before on crates bound for the upper quarters. On papers, the man signs without looking. You don't know what it means, but it means something. In the morning, the lesson is shorter than usual. The slate already carries the phrase, "Tools remember what hands forget." You copy it carefully, brushing chalk dust into the grooves with your sleeve. The gray woman watches from the doorway, arms folded, unmoving. When you finish, she nods. Not at you, at the page. Then she leaves. You're sent again to the measuring room. Today there are no blueprints, just strips of wood, each with notches and faint scratches. The man points at them. "These were cut too short," he says. "Measure what's missing." You line them up. Use the rule. Compare. Mark. Then he gives you a fresh piece. "Fix it." You do, slowly, cutting with the hand blade, sanding the edges, lining up the grain. When you finish, he checks. He runs his finger along the side, sets the weight at the edge. It doesn't tip. He gives a single nod. "Precision," he says, "is memory without language. You remember that." That afternoon, you're sent on another delivery. Not envelopes, not packages. A ledger, large, heavy, the cover lined with nail heads. Inside, lines of columns, each entry marked in fading ink. The gray woman hands it to you without a word. You carry it in both arms, wrapped in cloth, breath tight against the damp air. Your path takes you behind the mill, through smoke, past men with bare arms swinging hooks through bales of wet wool. past boys coughing on lint as they push carts too tall for their shoulders. You don't stop. The door you're meant to reach is painted red. You knock. Wait. A man opens it. Young, hair damp, hands clean. He takes the ledger, thanks you, closes the door. You pause a second longer than you should, then turn. Walk back. Near the halfway mark, you stop, not out of breath. Just a sound. A voice. Behind a crate. Sharp. Familiar. The man from the upper floor. He's speaking low to another, but you hear the words. If he keeps remembering like that, he'll need to be moved before winter. Then silence. Then footsteps. You slip around the corner. Quiet. Back in your room, the book waits. The phrase unchanged. Tools remember what hands forget. You write it again. Then you take the brass weight and press it into the page until the paper creases. You don't know why, but it feels right. It feels remembered. The next morning begins the same, but you feel the difference in the stillness. The bell chimes late. The hallway is too quiet. The gray woman doesn't appear. Instead, a boy you've never seen knocks on your door and hands you a folded piece of parchment. No seal, no name. Inside, one phrase. North stair, do not speak. You dress quickly, tie your shoes, tuck the brass weight into your sleeve. You don't know why, just that it should be with you. You walk the corridor without meeting eyes, take the east turn, then the narrow passage behind the storeroom shelves. The north stair is there, half hidden behind a sheet of hanging linen. It's narrower than the rest, steeper. The stones are smooth with wear. You descend slowly, the walls pressing close. No voices, no footsteps, just the faint drip of water far below. At the bottom, a door. Metal, plain, with a handle cold enough to sting. You pause, hand resting against it, then push. Inside, another hallway, no windows. The air is thicker here, like the cellar, but drier. Dust, rope oil, parchment glue. The kind of air that stays in your clothes long after you leave. A man waits at the end. Not the pale one, not the bearded one. A new one. Gray coat. Hands clasped. His eyes don't blink enough. You've been watching, he says. Now you'll see. He opens a second door. The room is lined with shelves. Not books. Tools. Instruments, scales, calipers, odd-shaped presses, bent irons, long brushes with hardened bristles. At the center, a table. On it, a single barrel hoop, split at one point, with a rope tied to its side. You will rebuild, he says. You will do it by memory. You step closer. No diagram, no guide. Just the pieces and the expectation. You start slow. Lay out the hoop. Test the tension in the rope. Measure the crack where the wood split. You take the glue from the shelf without asking. Wrap the end. Clamp it with the iron. The man watches, doesn't interfere. You don't speak. When it's done, the hoop holds, barely. The rope is tight, the split sealed. You nod once. He steps forward, presses a finger to the repair. Not perfect, he says. You nod. Good. He steps aside and gestures to the door. You walk out. Back in the hallway, the quiet returns. But this time it feels like a layer, not absence, but cover. You walk it carefully. Return to your room. Inside, the book has been moved, opened to a new line. Repair reveals understanding. You don't copy it yet. You sit. You stare at the ink. Then, slowly, you lift the brass weight and place it on the page. You say the phrase aloud. Then you say it again. This time it stays. That night, a storm moves in from the harbor. You hear it in the floor first, a low rumble through the stone, like a cart too heavy for its wheels dragging somewhere far below. Then the wind comes, slipping through the chimney flues, whistling through the cracks you didn't know the walls had. Rain hammers the shutters like fists with no rhythm. You lie in bed fully clothed. The book is closed. The candle is dark. But your eyes do not close. Not yet. You watch the slats of the ceiling catch flickers of light from somewhere outside. Lightning, probably, though you never see the flash directly. Just its echo. A knock. You sit up. Not the usual knock. This one is sharper. Precise. Too slow. One fast. You answer. It's the man with the gray coat and the eyes that blink too little. He doesn't enter, just says one word. Come. You follow him through the corridor. No one else moves. The lamps are dimmed to the last oil. The air tastes like soot and stone. You take the north stair again, the one behind the linen, but this time he takes you farther, past the tool room, past the sealed ledgers and the buckets of resin, to a door you didn't know existed, iron hinges, bolted twice. He unlocks it with a key worn smooth from use. Inside, the air shifts, warmer, thick. The smell of tallow, leather, and something sharp, not blood, but near it. The room holds no shelves, only a table. On it, 7 objects laid out in a line. He gestures. You know them, he says. You step closer. A hook, a rope weight, a bound ledger, a strip of waxed cloth, a measuring rule, a broken barrel hoop, a key. You recognize each, not the item itself, but what it represents. You've carried them, repaired them, measured, delivered. He nods. This is memory. You say nothing. He lifts a cloth from the corner of the table. Underneath, a blank book, unused, no lines. This is yours, he says. You'll fill it, not with what you're told, with what you know. You take the book. The cover is dry, the pages thick. You flip the first one open. Empty space stares back. You begin tomorrow, he says, before the bell, at your own pace. You nod. He leaves first. You follow. The door locks behind you. Back in your room, you place the new book beside the old one, the brass weight between them, like a hinge, like a bridge. You sit. Watch the candle stub even though it's not lit. The wax has curled back on itself. You don't write tonight. Not yet. Instead, you whisper a sentence. One not from any book, not given to you by any hand. But true. I remember the shape of silence. You repeat it. It doesn't need to be copied. It already belongs to you. The bell does not ring. You rise before it, dressing in silence, fingers moving slowly through the motions you no longer think about. The socks slide on without stiffness now. The shoes lace tight without creak. You fold the blanket once, square. The basin water is still. You don't touch it. There is no need to feel clean today. You already are. You take the new book in your hands. It is heavier this morning. Not by weight, but by intent. You don't open it yet. You press your palm flat against the cover and feel the grain of the leather, the faint raised edge of the spine stitching. You tuck it under your arm and leave. No one meets you in the corridor. The lamps haven't been trimmed. The air is low and still, as if the building itself has paused to listen. You pass the slate room. Empty. The benches wiped. The chalk set neatly in its tin. You descend the north stair alone. You don't hesitate at the linen curtain. You lift it like a curtain of breath. At the bottom, the tool room waits with the door ajar. A single lantern burns near the center table. The brass weight sits exactly where you left it. You place the new book beside it. Open to the first page. You do not write your name. You do not draw the map of the cellar. Instead, you write one phrase. I remember without asking. Then another. Tools do not forget. Then you stop. The ink dries slower in this light. You let it. You walk to the cabinet and lift the calipers, the rule, the folded cloth. You set them beside the book, not as decoration, as memory. A quiet knock breaks the still. The quiet boy from the rope room steps in, barefoot, holding a tin of sealing wax. He says nothing, just nods. You gesture to the bench. He sits. You write one more line. Memory is not what stays. It is what returns. He leans forward, points at the wax tin. You nod. He opens it. You don't ask how he knew to bring it. Another knock. This time, the gray woman. She steps halfway in, looks at the book, then at you, then at the door again. No one speaks. She steps out. You and the boy work in silence, melting wax, sealing the corner of the page with the smallest drop, pressing it with the old weight. The mark left behind is shallow but distinct. Not a symbol, just a pressure. By evening, the page holds 7 entries. None copied, none rehearsed. All true. You close the book, set the weight back in its place, and stand. The boy follows. Outside, the hall smells like dust and ink and sweat and patience. You leave the door open, not because you've finished, but because it is time. And you are no longer the boy who slept beside the fish barrels. You are the boy who writes what no one else remembers. The boy who was taught to measure without numbers, who knows the difference between silence and secrecy, who knows when to fold, when to carry, when to listen. You are not chosen, you are not gifted, you are simply here, still, and that is enough.